Welcome to Awake and Activate. Top 10 Elite Secret Societies in History. What are they hiding? What they will not tell you, even if you're experiencing spiritual activation? Why they lie and divert you from truth? What they all have in common? Hear about all 10 elite secret societies. Synthetic Merkaba. Is this what they are making with levels and degrees? Knowledge is power, wisdom will lead to all truth. Be transformed into your light body. Be the seeker of truth and let no man detour you. First, let us get into some definitions. Secret society is defined as Wikipedia. A secret society is a club or an organization whose activities, events, inner functioning, or membership are concealed from non-members. The society may or may not attempt to conceal its existence. The term usually excludes covert groups, such as intelligence agencies or guerrilla warfare insurgencies, that hide their activities and memberships but maintain a public presence. The exact qualifications for labeling a group a secret society are disputed, but definitions generally rely on the degree to which the organization insists on secrecy, and might involve the retention and transmission of secret knowledge, the denial about membership or knowledge of the group, the creation of personal bonds between members of the organization, and the use of secret rites or rituals which solidify members of the group. Dictionaries. Dictionary.com. A noun, an organization, as a fraternal society, the members of which take secret initiation oaths, share secret passwords and rites, and are bound to assist each other. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Any of various oath-bound societies often devoted to brotherhood, moral discipline, and mutual assistance. The Free Dictionary. Noun, an organization, such as a lodge, that requires its members to conceal certain activities, such as its rites of initiation, from outsiders. Noun, a society or organization that conceals its rites, activities, etc., from those who are not members. Noun, an organization, as a fraternal society whose members share secret rites and promise to assist each other. Number 10, Ordo Templi Orientis. Ordo Templi Orientis is a mystic organization that was started in the early 20th century. The group was established along the same lines as the less secretive Freemasons, and supposedly relies on ritual and occult practices as a means for members to move from one level of prestige to another within the organization. The general philosophy of the group was a belief in New Age esoteric principles and practices as a method of realizing one's true identity. Famed occultist and all-around eccentric Aleister Crowley composed much of the group's lore, including a manifesto called the Mysteria Mystica Maxima, and he later became its head. After his death, the influence and popularity of Ordo Templi Orientis began to wane, but it still exists today and has various chapters scattered across the world, chiefly in the United States, the UK, and other parts of Europe. As Aleister Crowley's popularity as a New Age figure has continued to grow, more and more of the teachings of the Ordo Templi Orientis have come to light. As such, the group makes much less of an attempt to be secretive today than it did in the past. This doesn't mean that they don't still have some bizarre practices. Chief among these is the group's fixation on the sexual, especially their teachings on the adoration of the phallus and the magic of masturbation, a ritual of Ordo Templi Orientis. Initiation ritual making one a Minerval 0 degrees degree. A conical tent, within which is seated Saladin, in Oriental costume. Before him is an altar, a well covered with a coping stone, on which are the Book of the Law, 2, a sword, 3, platter, disc, of bread and salt. On his right hand is a seat. The tent is lighted by a single candle, or is a palm tree. Without is an armed blackguard, who seizes the candidate on his approach, and binds him hand and foot, and blindfolds him. He then leads him to the tent and knocks once. Saladin, whom have you there? Blackguard, a prisoner, mighty Saladin. Saladin, have you discovered his identity? Blackguard, I have, mighty Saladin. He is a native of Corinth, but he has attained the freedom of the city of Athens, the ally of Medley. Saladin, why does he travel in the land of Egypt? Blackguard, he says that he is traveling to Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Saladin, are his intentions friendly? Blackguard, he desires peace, and seeks wisdom. Saladin, then let him confirm his aspirations with an oath. Sir, if your intentions be honorable, you will be set at liberty, and received with true hospitality in the camp of friends. Repeat your name at length and say after me. I insert name, being an helpless prisoner in your power, hereby declare that I am a native of Corinth, a freeman of the city of Athens, the ally of Mytilene, and that I am traveling peaceable to Heliopolis, the city of the sun, in search of light and truth, of wisdom and of peace. Humbly, yet frankly, I demand your hospitality and participation in your mysteries, which I swear to study and to hold sacred and secret, and if I break this oath. Saladin puts bread and salt into his mouth. And betray the bread and salt, may the dogs devour my carcass, may I be mutilated and no more a man. Blackguard applies sword in penal sign. Saladin, noble emir, release your prisoner. Done. First, feet. Second, hands. Third, hoodwink. Saladin shakes hands with the candidate. Noble guest, welcome to our camp. Be seated on my right hand. Candidate seated. I greet you as a brother with the title of Minerval, man of earth, a seeker after the hidden wisdom. Also, I present you with this sacred scroll. Done. Study it well, it is the charter of universal freedom. Noble emir, I charge you with the pleasant duty of proclaiming the arrival of our guest to our fellow soldiers. Blackguard, oh yea. Oh yea. Oh yea. Hear ye all that insert name is a welcome guest at our camp. Then all applaud. Saladin, in order to enable you for the future to penetrate our camp without annoyance from the sentries, I will confer upon you as a sign of recognition and a password. The sign is given by, etc. The penal sign is given by, etc. The grip is, etc. The word is on. It signifies the sun in the old Egyptian language. The password for the present month is, he says, the month. For the present, worthy and welcome guest, I see that you are in need of repose. This noble emir will conduct you to a suitable lodging. Therefore I bid you for the present. Hail and farewell. Blackguard conducts new member to join his fellow soldiers. Note: if candidate be female, the obvious emendations must be made. Part 2. Minervals should be made in batches, preferably 12 at a time, according to the signs of the zodiac. Each goes through the first part separately, all coming in together for the second part. Saladin, noble emir, have you attended to the necessities of our guests? Blackguard, I have, mighty Saladin. Saladin, let me assure myself of the same. Blackguard brings the candidates forward. Worthy and valiant guests, I trust that so far you have had no reason to complain of our hospitality. Are you well rested and refreshed? Candidate, I am. Candidates are girded with swords. A foreman can be chosen, as in a jury. Saladin, are you ready to fight by the side of your comrades at the behest of the supreme and holy king, the Grand Master, Baphomet? Candidate, I am. Saladin, our Grand Master will have none but free men in the ranks of his army. His soldiers must be neither mercenaries nor pressed men. I therefore ask you your object in enrolling yourself amongst us. Candidate replies as he thinks fit, and Saladin holds an impromptu dialogue with him which ends as follows. Noble and valiant guests and comrades, you have arrived amongst us at a time when freedom is about to deliver the decisive combat against the forces of superstition, tyranny, and oppression. In the time which you spent in reposing from the fatigue of your journey, what was your sustenance and comfort? Candidate, the book of the law. Saladin, can you explain the nature of that law in a few words? Candidate, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. All repeat, and give the sign. Saladin, can you explain further the nature of the law? Candidate, love is the law, love under will. All repeat, giving the penal sign. Saladin, are you prepared to defend those principles with your life? Candidate, I am. All repeat. Saladin, in order to fortify yourselves for combat, it is our custom to read a chapter of the book of the law. I will therefore request you to encourage your comrades in this manner. The blackguard gives the candidate a chapter to read, and he reads it. Saladin, let all present raise the right hand and say with me, we swear to defend the principles of the book of the law in the name of the freedom of man, in whom is God. All repeat. Noble and valiant guests, I will venture to acquaint you with the first paradox of philosophy. In order to obtain freedom to do your will, it is necessary to submit voluntarily to discipline and organization. Evolution implies structuralization. The power of man is greater than the power of the amoeba, because he has specialized the functions of our protoplasm of which he is composed. The regulations of our order are strict, Even as the sinews of your arm are firm. Were your sinews loosened, you could no longer move your arms. Chafe not, therefore, at the apparent restrictions which your obligations place upon you. They are designed solely to enable you to do your will. In order that you may do the one thing which you will truly, you must therefore renounce all those other things which may tempt you to swerve from the one purpose of your sojourn amongst us. This tent, under whose canopy I sit, is restrained by the rigidity of its support. It fulfills its design by virtue of this discipline. I charge you, therefore, to meditate over this paradox, in order that you may understand the necessity to undergo that course of training which will make you efficient as a soldier of freedom. Let me further assure you that the word freedom is with us no idle term. We neither know nor care what your will is. Thou hast no right but to do thy will. With that and no other shall say nay. We unreservedly place power in your hands. If it be your will to enter this army as a spy to destroy your comrades, so be it. Yet remember that you have made solemn affirmation to us in these words, which you will again repeat after me. If I break this oath and betray the bread and salt, may I be mutilated and be no more a man. I'll give penal sign. Saladin, it is our custom before going into battle, to fortify ourselves with meat and drink. A banquet has been prepared for our entertainment. Emir, the banquet is ready, mighty Saladin. Saladin, let us partake of it. OTO applause, all go to banqueting tent. Banquet. Saladin at head of table. Black guard at foot. Saladin rises, give sign. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Emir, what is thy will, mighty Saladin? Saladin, it is my will to eat and drink. Emir, to what end? Saladin, that I may fortify my body. Emir, to what end? Saladin, that I may do battle in the cause of freedom according to the book of the law. Emir, love is the law, love under will. OTO applause. Number 9, Bilderberg Group. No famous members, but attendees have included Ben Bernanke, the royal families of Spain and the Netherlands, World Bank officials, and representatives from major corporations. The Bilderberg Group is not a secret society per se, but it does operate under a similar veil of mystery, which has made it the subject of countless conspiracy theories and criticisms. The group was started in 1954, and since then it has convened every year as an exclusive, invitation-only conference of various world leaders, captains of industry, and media moguls. The group was originally started as a means of addressing a streak of anti-Americanism that was spreading through Europe following World War II, but over the years it appears to have morphed into a more broad discussion on reaching mutual understanding between cultures. The Bilderberg Group has become controversial for one key reason: no press is allowed in the conference and no significant details concerning the topics discussed are ever officially released to the public. That kind of secrecy, along with the intense security of the meeting sites, which often feature armed guards, police, and even fighter jets patrolling the skies overhead, has produced a number of conspiracy theories centered on the conference. The most popular is that the group tries to steer the direction of public policy, financial markets, and media in certain prescribed directions of their choosing, perhaps even with the goal of forming a so-called one-world government. These claims have been brushed aside by the group, which claims global understanding and the end of nuclear proliferation as its main goals. Origins of the Bilderberg Group. The first conference was held at the Bilderberg Hotel, Hotel de Bilderberg, in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, from 29 to May 31, 1954. The hotel gave its name both to the group and to the Bilderbergers who participate in its activities. The hotel is at a remote location and not near any major city. It is owned and operated by the Bilderberg hotel chain, which runs 12 hotels and an event location in the Netherlands and one hotel in Germany. At the time of the 1954 conference, it was a medium-sized family-run hotel. The conference was initiated by several people, including Polish politician in exile Józef Ratzinger, who, concerned about the growth of anti-Americanism in Western Europe, proposed an international conference at which leaders from European countries and the United States would be brought together with the aim of promoting Atlanticism, better understanding between the cultures of the United States and Western Europe to foster cooperation on political, economic, and defense issues. Ratzinger approached Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, who agreed to promote the idea, together with former Belgian Prime Minister Paul van Zeeland and the then head of Unilever, Paul Raukens. Bernhard in turn contacted Walter Bedell Smith, the then head of the CIA, who asked Eisenhower advisor Charles Douglas Jackson to deal with the suggestion. The guest list was to be drawn up by inviting 2 attendees from each nation, one of each to represent conservative and liberal points of view. 50 delegates from 11 countries in Western Europe attended the first conference, along with 11 Americans. The success of the meeting led the organizers to arrange an annual conference. A permanent steering committee was established with Rattinger appointed as permanent secretary. As well as organizing the conference, the steering committee also maintained a register of attendee names and contact details with the aim of creating an informal network of individuals who could call upon one another in a private capacity. Conferences were held in France, Germany, and Denmark over the following 3 years. In 1957, the first U.S. conference was held on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, with $30,000 from the Ford Foundation. The foundation also supplied funding for the 1959 and 1963 conferences. Bilderberg Group criticism and conspiracy theories. Partly because of its working methods to ensure strict privacy and secrecy, the Bilderberg Group has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. The undisclosed nature of the proceedings has given rise to several conspiracy theories. This outlook has been popular on both extremes of the political spectrum, even if they disagree about the exact nature of the group's intentions. Some on the left accuse the Bilderberg Group of conspiring to impose capitalist domination, while some on the right have accused the group of conspiring to impose a world government and planned economy. In 2005, Davignon discussed accusations of the group striving for a one-world government with the BBC. It is unavoidable and it doesn't matter. There will always be people who believe in conspiracies, but things happen in a much more incoherent fashion. When people say this is a secret government of the world, I say that if we were a secret government of the world, we should be bloody ashamed of ourselves. One of the most concise academic papers critical of Bilderberg's deep state role in influencing geopolitical events out of the public spotlight was written in 1996 by Mike Peters of Leeds Metropolitan University and published in Lobster. Entitled The Bilderberg Group and the Project for European Unification, Peters expresses incredulity that so few academics have examined the Bilderberg Group's international financial and political lobbying clout, but closely examines links between the post-war effort for a united Europe and specific individuals connected with the Bilderberg Group. To anticipate what will be said later, I believe that one of the key assumptions often made by structural Marxists, namely that the capitalist class is always divided into competing fractions which have no mechanisms for coordination other than the state, is not empirically sustainable. Part of this misconception, it could be said, derives from an over-literal understanding of the concept of the market as constituting the only social relation amongst different fractions of capital. At least as far as the very large, and above all, the international, or as we would say in today's jargon, the global, corporations are concerned, this is definitely not the case. Very sophisticated organs do exist whereby these capitalist interests can and do hammer out common lines of strategy. Bilderberg is one of these mechanisms. In a 1994 report Right Who's Left, published by the Political Research Associates, investigative journalist Chip Burlett argued that right-wing populist conspiracy theories about the Bilderberg Group date back as early as 1964 and can be found in Phyllis Schlafly's self-published book A Choice, Not an Echo, which promoted a conspiracy theory in which the Republican Party was secretly controlled by elitist intellectuals dominated by members of the Bilderberg Group, whose internationalist policies would pave the way for world communism. In August 2010, former Cuban President Fidel Castro wrote a controversial article for the Cuban Communist Party newspaper Granma in which he cited Daniel Estulin's 2006 book The Secrets of the Bilderberg Club, which, as quoted by Castro, describes sinister cliques and the Bilderberg lobbyists manipulating the public to install a world government that knows no borders and is not accountable to anyone but its own self. Proponents of Bilderberg conspiracy theories in the United States include individuals and groups such as the John Birch Society, political activist Phyllis Schlafly, writer Jim Tucker, political activist Lyndon LaRouche, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, and politician Jesse Ventura, who made the Bilderberg Group a topic of a 2009 episode of his True TV series Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. Non-American proponents include Lithuanian writer Daniel Estulin and British politician Nigel Farage. Concerns about lobbying have arisen. Ian Richardson sees Bilderberg as the transnational power elite, an integral and to some extent critical part of the existing system of global governance that is not acting in the interests of the whole. An article in The Guardian in June 2017 criticized the worldview expressed in an agenda published by the Bilderberg Group. The Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, full name, the United Religious, Military and Masonic Orders of the Temple and of St. John of Jerusalem, Palestine, Rhodes and Malta, is a modern offshoot of Masonry, and does not have a direct tie to the original Knights Templar, a religious military group formed in the 12th century. Members of the Masonic Knights Templar do not claim a direct connection to the medieval group, but merely a borrowing of ideas and symbols. In order to become a member of this group, you must already be a Christian Master Mason. This organization is a distinct one, and is not just a higher degree of Masonry. Despite Freemasonry's general disclaimer that no one Masonic organization claims a direct heritage to the medieval Knights Templar, certain degrees and orders are obviously patterned after the medieval order. These are best described as commemorative orders or degrees. Nevertheless, in spite of the fraternity's official disclaimers, some Masons, non-Masons, and even anti-Masons insist that certain Masonic rites or degrees originally had direct Templar influence. The Knights Templar were considered as medieval bankers. Regarded as a safe place by locals, Templar communities or convents became repositories for cash, jewels, and important documents. The order had their own cash reserves which were, from as early as 1130 CE, put to good use in the form of interest-gaining loans. The Templars even permitted people to deposit money in one convent and, provided they could show a suitable letter, transfer and then withdraw equivalent money from a different convent. In another early banking service, people could hold what today would be called a current account with the Templars, paying in regular deposits and arranging for the Templars to pay out, on behalf of the account holder, fixed sums to whoever was nominated. By the 13th century CE, the Templars had become such proficient and trusted bankers that the kings of France and other nobles kept their treasuries with the order. Kings and nobles who embarked on crusades to the Holy Land, in order to pay their armies on the spot and meet supply needs, often forwarded large cash sums to the Templars which could be withdrawn later in the Levant. The Templars even lent money to rulers and thus became an important element in the increasingly sophisticated financial structure of late medieval Europe. The Knights Templar. The Crusades. Skilled with the lance, sword and crossbow, and well-armored, the Knights Templar and other military orders were the best trained and equipped of any members of a Crusader army. For this reason, they were often deployed to protect the flanks, vanguard and rear of an army in the field. The Templars were particularly renowned for their disciplined group cavalry charges when, in tight formation, they blasted through enemy lines and caused havoc which could then be exploited by Allied troops following up their advance. They were also highly disciplined both in battle and in camp, with severe penalties imposed on knights not following orders, including expulsion from the order for losing one's sword or horse through carelessness. That being said, the order as a whole could prove difficult for a crusade commander to keep check on, given that they were often the most zealous and eager troops to win honor and glory. The Templars were frequently given the task of defending important passes such as at Emmaus north of Antioch. They acquired lands and castles which the Crusader states were not able to maintain themselves for lack of manpower. They also rebuilt destroyed or entirely new castles to better defend the Christian East. The Templars never forgot their original function as a protector of pilgrims either, and they manned many small forts along the pilgrim routes in the Levant or acted as bodyguards. Although involved in many successes such as the Siege of Acre at 1189-91 CE, Damietta in 1218-19 CE, and Constantinople in 1204 CE, there were some major defeats along the way, and such was their martial reputation, the Templars could usually expect to be executed if ever captured. At the Battle of La Forbie in Gaza in October 1144 CE, an Ibid army defeated a large Latin army and 300 Templar knights were killed. 230 captured Templar knights were beheaded after the Battle of Hattin in 1187 CE, won by the army of Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria, or 1174 to 1193 CE. More important members of the order, as was typical of the period, were offered up for ransom. The Templar castle at Gaza had to be given up in order to gain release of the captured master after the same battle. Another heavy defeat came at 1250 CE, the Battle of Mansoura in Egypt during the Seventh Crusade, 1248 to 1254 CE. The vast network of convents, though, always seemed able to replenish any losses in resources. Number 7. The Order of the Golden Dawn. The Order of the Golden Dawn was created by Dr. William Robert Woodman, William Wynne Westcott, and Samuel Little MacGregor Mathers. All three were Freemasons and members of Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, an organization with ties to Masonry. It is considered by many to be a forerunner of the Ordo Templi Orientis and a majority of modern occult groups. The belief system of the Golden Dawn is largely taken from Christian mysticism, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, the religion of ancient Egypt, Freemasonry, alchemy, theosophy, magic, and Renaissance writings. William Yeats and Aleister Crowley are two of the more famous members of the group. The fundamental documents of the order are known as the cipher documents. These were translated into English using a cipher attributed to Johannes Trithemius. The documents are a series of 60 folios containing magic rituals. The basic structure of many of these rituals appear to originate with Rosicrucianism. There is a great deal of controversy surrounding the origins of these documents. The Order of the Golden Dawn. Manifesto. We, the brethren of the Rosicrucian Inner Order, bestow our greeting, love and prayers upon each and every one who reads this, our Golden Dawn Manifesto. On the vernal equinox, 22nd day of March Anno Domini 2001, the greatly honored chiefs of the Inner Order, the Collegium ad Spiritum Sanctum, have established the Order of the Golden Dawn, registered in the outer unto the glory of God, blessed be He, the vast and mighty One. Through such an establishment may our temples manifest, by means of initiatory currents and transmissions, the Western mystery traditions which lead the aspirant to a perfect communion with his highest self. For the whole intention of the lower mysteries, or of external initiation, is by the intervention of the symbol, ceremonial, and sacrament, so to lead the soul that it may be withdrawn from the attraction of matter and delivered from the absorption therein, whereby it walks in somnambulism, knowing not whence it cometh nor whither it goeth, and seeing also, that thus withdrawn, the soul by true direction must be brought to study of divine things, that it may offer the only clean oblation and acceptable sacrifice, which is love expressed towards God, man, and the universe. Now, therefore, we confess and testify thereto, from the heptagonal chamber of our college, and we promise, so far as in us lies, to lead the aspirant by the rites of our order, faithfully conserved, and exhibited with becoming reverence, that through such love and such sacrifice, he may be prepared in due time for the greater mysteries, the supreme and inward initiation. May our study and practice of the divine mysteries as found in the Holy Jewish Kabbalah, the alchemy of the ancients, the Rosicrucian philosophy, the archetypes of Egypt and Greece, the sacred mysticism of Christianity, and the ceremonial magic of the medieval grimoires maintain us in our search for the quintessence, the stone of the philosophers, true wisdom, perfect happiness, the summum bonum. We give thee thanks, supreme and gracious God, for the manifestation of thy light which is vouchsafed to us, for that measure of knowledge which thou hast revealed to us concerning thy mysteries, for those guiding hands which raise the corner of the veil, and for the firm hope of a further light beyond. Number 6. The Black Hand. The Black Hand was a secret society of anti-imperialist political revolutionaries that was started in Serbia in 1912. It formed as an offshoot from Narodna Odbrana, a group that sought to unite all of the Slavic people of Europe under one country. This required the separation of Serbia from the monarchy of Austria-Hungary, which had annexed the country some years before. With this in mind, the group began disseminating anti-Austrian propaganda and training saboteurs and assassins to disrupt political rule within the province. Their plan was to incite a war between Serbia and Austria, which would give them a chance to free their country and unite the different Slavic nations as one. Black Hand would be all but forgotten today if not for their unlikely involvement in one of the biggest events of the 20th century. In 1914, the group engineered the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The job was badly botched, and was only completed when a low-level hood named Gavrilo Princip stumbled upon the Archduke's car and shot him to death at close range, see photo. Still, the results of the assassination were catastrophic. Within days, Austria-Hungary had declared war on Serbia, and after the allies of both countries joined the fray, the small dispute managed to escalate into World War I. The aftermath of World War I eventually led to World War II, and this led to the Cold War, which makes the Black Hand one of the most strangely influential forces of the 20th century. The Black Hand. Unification or Death, popularly known as Black Hand, was a secret military society formed in 1901 by officers in the Army of the Kingdom of Serbia, best known for being allegedly involved in assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo and the earlier conspiracy to assassinate the Serbian royal couple in 1903, under the aegis of Captain Dragutin Dimitrijević, aka Apis. It was formed with the aim of uniting all of the territories with a South Slavic majority not ruled by either Serbia or Montenegro. Its inspiration was primarily the unification of Italy in 1859-70 but also that of Germany in 1871. Through its connections to the June 1914 assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, which was committed by the members of youth movement Young Bosnia, the Black Hand is often viewed as leading to the start of World War I by precipitating the July crisis of 1914, which eventually led to Austria-Hungary's invasion of the Kingdom of Serbia. In August 1901, a group of lower officers headed by Captain Dragutin Dimitrijević Apis established a conspiracy group, called the Black Hand in literature, against the dynasty. The first meeting was held on September 6, 1901. In attendance were Captains Radomir Arandlevic, Milan F. Petrovic, and Dragutin Dimitrijević, as well as Lieutenants Antonije Antic, Dragutin Dulik, Milan Marinkovic, and Nikodije Popovic. They made a plan to kill the royal couple, King Alexander I Obrenovic and Queen Draga. On the night of 28/May 29, 1903, Captain Apis personally led a group of army officers who murdered the royal couple in the Old Palace at Belgrade, Old Style. Along with the royal couple, the conspirators killed the Prime Minister Dimitrije Sinkar Markovic, the Minister of the Army Milovan Pavlovic, SR, and General Adjutant Lazar Petrovic. This became known as the May Cope, Serbia. The Black Hand. Origins. The roots of the Black Hand can be traced to the Kingdom of Naples as early as the 1750s. However, the term is normally used in English specifically refers to the organization established by Italian immigrants in the United States during the 1880s who, though fluent in their southern Italian regional dialects, had no access to standard Italian or even a grammar school education. A minority of the immigrants formed criminal syndicates, living alongside each other. By 1900, Black Hand operations were firmly established in the Italian-American communities of major cities including New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, New Orleans, Scranton, San Francisco, Olean, New York, and Detroit. In 1907, a Black Hand headquarters was discovered in Hillsville, Pennsylvania, a village located a few miles west of New Castle, Pennsylvania. The Black Hand in Hillsville established a school designed to train members in the use of the stiletto. Although more successful immigrants were usually targeted, possibly as many as 90% of Italian immigrants and workmen in New York and other communities were threatened with extortion. Typical Black Hand tactics involve sending a letter to a victim threatening bodily harm, kidnapping, arson, or murder. The letter demanded a specified amount of money to be delivered to a specific place. It was decorated with threatening symbols like a smoking gun, hangman's noose, skull, a knife dripping with blood or piercing a human heart, and was in many instances signed with a hand, held up in the universal gesture of warning, imprinted or drawn in thick black ink. According to author/historian Mike Dash, it was this last feature that inspired a journalist writing for the New York Herald to refer to the communications as Black Hand letters, a name that stuck, and indeed, soon became synonymous with crime in Little Italy. The term Black Hand, in Italian, mano nera, and in Sicilian, mano nera, was readily adopted by the American press and generalized to the idea of an organized criminal conspiracy, which came to be known as the Black Hand Society. The tenor Enrico Caruso received a Black Hand letter, on which a black hand and dagger were drawn, demanding $2,000. Caruso decided to pay, and, when this fact became public knowledge, was rewarded for his capitulation with a stack of threatening letters a foot high, including another from the same gang for $15,000. Realizing the extortionists would continue to demand money, he reported the incident to the police who, arranging for Caruso to drop off the money at a prearranged spot, arrested two Italian-American businessmen who retrieved the money. The Hashashin. The Hashashin or Nizari were a mysterious band of Muslim assassins that operated in the Middle East during the 13th century. The group was made up of Shia Muslims who broke off from a bigger sect and banded together in order to establish a utopian Shiite state. Because their number was small, the group used guerrilla tactics in their battle against their enemies, including espionage, sabotage, and most famously, political assassination. The Hashashin would plant highly trained moles inside enemy strongholds, with instructions to only attack when the time was right. They were known for their extreme discretion in minimizing civilian casualties, as well as their penchant for using stealth to intimidate their targets. As the story goes, enemy leaders would often wake in the morning to find a Hashashin dagger lying on their pillow along with a note saying "You are in our grip." Their legend soon grew, and before the Mongols finally destroyed the group, they became well-known contract killers, supposedly performing jobs for the likes of King Richard the Lionheart. Around the time of their downfall, the library that contained all Nizari records was destroyed. So much of what is known about them today has taken on the status of myth. The most controversial legend centers of the group's use of drugs and other intoxicants. Hashashin translates roughly as hashish user, which some have said were employed by the members in battle. This has been widely discredited, but the term Hashashin as it refers to the Nizari is believed to be the origin of the modern word assassin. The Hashashin. Early history of the Assassins. The Assassins' library was destroyed when their fortress fell in 1256, so we do not have any original sources on their history from their own perspective. Most documentation of their existence that has survived come from their enemies, or from fanciful second- or third-hand European accounts. However, we know that the Assassins were a branch of the Ismaili sect of Shia Islam. The founder of the Assassins was a Nizari Ismaili missionary called Hassan I-Sabah, who infiltrated the castle at Alamut with his followers and bloodlessly ousted the resident king of Dalim in 1090. From this mountaintop fortress, Sabah and his faithful followers established a network of strongholds and challenged the ruling Sunni Muslims who controlled Persia at the time. Sabah's group became known as the Hashashin, or assassins in English. In order to get rid of anti-Nizari rulers, clerics, and officials, the assassins would carefully study the languages and cultures of their targets. An operative would then infiltrate the court or inner circle of the intended victim, sometimes serving for years as an advisor or servant. At an opportune moment, the assassin would stab the sultan, vizier, or mullah with a dagger in a surprise attack. Assassins were promised a place in paradise following their martyrdom, which generally took place shortly after the attack, so they often did it mercilessly. As a result, officials throughout the Middle East were terrified of these surprise attacks. Many took to wearing armor or chainmail shirts under their clothes, just in case. The Hashashin. The assassins' victims. For the most part, the assassins' victims were Seljuk Turks or their allies. The first and one of the best known was Nizam al-Mulk, a Persian who served as vizier to the Seljuk court. He was killed in October of 1092 by an assassin disguised as a Sufi mystic, and a Sunni caliph named Mustarshid fell to assassin daggers in 1131 during a succession dispute. In 1213, the Sharif of the holy city of Mecca lost his cousin to an assassin. He was particularly upset about the attack because this cousin closely resembled him. Convinced that he was the real target, he took all Persian and Syrian pilgrims hostage until a rich lady from Alamut paid their ransom. As Shiites, many Persians had long felt mistreated by the Arabic Sunni Muslims who controlled the caliphate for centuries. When the power of the caliphs faltered in the 10th through 11th centuries, and Christian crusaders began to attack their outposts in the eastern Mediterranean, the Shia thought their moment had come. However, a new menace arose to the east in the form of the newly converted Turks. Fervent in their beliefs and militarily powerful, the Sunni Seljuks took control of a vast region including Persia. Outnumbered, the Nizari Shia could not defeat them in open battle. From a series of mountaintop fortresses in Persia and Syria, however, they could assassinate Seljuk leaders and strike fear into their allies. Number 4. Knights of the Golden Circle. The Knights of the Golden Circle was a secret society that flourished in the U.S. during the American Civil War. In the beginning, the group sought to encourage the annexation of Mexico and the West Indies, which they believed would help the waning slave trade to once again flourish. But once the Civil War started, the group switched its focus from colonialism to fervent support of the newly established Confederate government. The Knights soon had thousands of followers, many of whom formed guerrilla armies and began raiding Union strongholds in the West. In the northern states, the mysterious order had an even bigger impact. Many newspapers and public figures engaged in witch hunts where they accused supposed Southern sympathizers, including President Franklin Pierce, of being members of the Knights of the Golden Circle. Unlike most secret societies, the Golden Circle didn't just concern itself with clandestine meetings and mysterious plans. Instead, the group often formed renegade armies and bands of bushwhackers in order to forward their agenda by force. In 1860, a group of the Knights made a failed attempt to invade Mexico. During the war, they robbed stagecoaches and attempted a blockade of the harbor in San Francisco, and a group of them even managed to briefly take control of southern New Mexico. Knights of the Golden Circle. George W. L. Bickley, a doctor, editor, and adventurer who lived in Cincinnati, founded the association. Records of the KGC convention held in 1860 state that the organization originated at Lexington, Kentucky, on the 4th day of July 1854, by 5 gentlemen who came together on a call made by General George Bickley. He organized the first castle or local branch in Cincinnati in 1854. Hounded by creditors, he left Cincinnati in the late 1850s and traveled through the East and South, promoting an expedition to Mexico. The group's original goal was to provide a force to colonize the northern part of Mexico and the West Indies. This would extend pro-slavery interests. In August 1861, the New York Times described the order as a successor to the Order of the Lone Star, which had been organized for the purpose of conquering Cuba and Nicaragua, succeeding in the latter cause in 1856 under William Walker before being driven out by a coalition of neighboring states. At that time, the order's prime objective was said to be to raise an army of 16,000 men to conquer and southernize Mexico, while supporting the Knights of the Columbian Star for public office. Before the Civil War, several members of President James Buchanan's administration were members of the order. Both Secretaries of War and Treasury, John Floyd and Hal Cobb respectively, were members of the circle in addition to Vice President John Breckinridge. Secretary of War John Floyd received instructions from the order to seize navy yards, forts, etc., while KGC members were still cabinet officers and senators. Floyd used his position as Secretary of War to move munitions and men to the South towards the end of Buchanan's presidency. His plot was discovered and led to greater distrust of secret societies and copperheads in general. This distrust was the result of a confirmed plot to overthrow the federal government, rather than general discontent. Knights of the Golden Circle. Let's put some historic mystery with the society. Please take these part with a grain of salt, as it is called a historic mystery. The Knights of the Golden Circle, also known as the Order of the Sons of Liberty, are a secret society of Southern sympathizers. They named themselves for their plan to create a golden circle of slave-keeping territory, and then contrarily named themselves for a group of men who were committed to the cause of freedom. The Knights of the Golden Circle did little to change history, unlike their namesakes, but they did leave behind a mysterious legacy of famous members and buried treasure. This secret society was born in 1854, when George Washington Lafayette Bickley decided to gather men to an extended version of the Southern cause. He wanted to launch military attacks on parts of Central America, Cuba, and other outlying areas. The areas he and the rest of the Knights of the Golden Circle planned to attack formed something of a geographical circle, hence the name. The closest they came to carrying out these plans was a small, unsuccessful attack on Mexico. However, rumor has it that they gathered all the weapons and funds they needed. Perhaps it was decent leadership and manpower they were lacking. Some say that the Knights of the Golden Circle hid all of the money and weapons they would need to wage war. There are rumors that members were exorbitantly rich. Other rumors say that the gains were ill-gotten. Either way, no one knows for sure if this treasure ever existed, if it was taken away by members found later, or it is still out there waiting to be found. The latter is an interesting prospect, given that, even without the money and precious metals reported to be part of the treasure, a cache of Civil War weapons would be a collector's dream. Tied into the Knights of the Golden Circle treasure mystery is that of the most famous outlaw in United States history, Jesse James. There is a rumor that Jesse James was a member of the secret society. Furthermore, the James gang's plunder may have contributed to the treasure. He is not the only infamous person or group of persons connected to the Knights of the Golden Circle. John Wilkes Booth was the man who killed President Abraham Lincoln. Booth was an avid supporter of the Southern cause. Some people believe that Booth was connected to the Knights of the Golden Circle and that the secret society planned the murder. There is also speculation that the Ku Klux Klan began as an offshoot of the Knights of the Golden Circle. There is little evidence to support this, but the idea is not as far-fetched as many theories relating to secret societies are. The KKK is a pro-slavery, secretive organization, just like the Knights of the Golden Circle. Though it is doubtful that the KKK has amassed any kind of buried treasure, they are only secretive about individual identities, not real or perceived accomplishments. The Knights of the Golden Circle disappeared after the Civil War, or so it seems. It is still possible that there is Civil War treasure out there to be found, or that has already been found. The reality is that any treasure left behind by this society may be unrecognizable for what it is. Many people and businesses hid their valuables during the Civil War and were unable to retrieve it from their hiding places, for various reasons. A cache of secret society treasure could very well look like a dead civilian's resources. Number 3. The Order of the Skull and Bones. The Order of Skull and Bones, a Yale University society, was originally known as the Brotherhood of Death. It is one of the oldest student secret societies in the United States. It was founded in 1832 and membership is open to an elite few. The society uses Masonic-inspired rituals to this day. Members meet every Thursday and Sunday of each week in a building they call the Tomb. According to Judy Schiff, chief archivist at the Yale University Library, the names of the members were not kept secret until the 1970s, but the rituals always have been. Both of the Bush presidents were members of the society while studying at Yale, and a number of other members have gone on to great fame and fortune. The society is surrounded by conspiracy theories, the most popular of which is probably the idea that the CIA was built on members from the group. The CIA released a statement in 2007 coinciding with the popularity of the film The Good Shepherd, in which it denied that the group was an incubator for the CIA. The Order of the Skull and Bones. 7 facts about Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones, Yale University's most famous and most secret society, has inspired sinister conspiracy theories since its founding in 1832. Some people believe Skull and Bones controls the CIA, while others think it's a branch of the Illuminati, seeking a global totalitarian government. Still others blame it for the Kennedy assassinations. Those theories got help from at least one of the Society's famous members, James Jesus Angleton, who headed CIA counterintelligence for nearly 2 decades. Skull and Bones also has a reputation as a club for future leaders. It so epitomized East Coast elitism in 1925 that F. Scott Fitzgerald had 2 of his main waspy characters in The Great Gatsby belonging to it. Later, in the television series Batman, Bruce Wayne's grandfather wears a Yale sweater in his portrait and was said to have founded Skull and Bones. 1. The number 322 appears on the Society's insignia, and is said to refer to 322 BC, when Athens lost the Lemnian War and had to dissolve its democracy. A new, plutocratic government allowed only wealthy Athenians to remain citizens. 2. Skull and Bones owns Deer Island in the St. Lawrence River in Alexandria, New York. The Society uses it for get-togethers, and every new member visits it. Though servants once served catered meals in elegant cottages on the island, little is left of the old buildings. The 40-acre retreat had dense undergrowth, stone ruins, and a small lodge. One bonesman described it as a beautiful dump. 3. Alphonso Taft, founder of the political dynasty and father of President William Taft, co-founded Skull and Bones in 1832 with William Huntington Russell. Russell in 1856 incorporated the Russell Trust as the business arm of the Society. 4. Both President George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush belonged to Bones. So did Secretary of State John Kerry, the younger Bush's opponent in the 2004 presidential election. Bush wrote in his autobiography, "In my senior year I joined Skull and Bones, a secret society so secret, I can't say anything more." A reporter once asked Kerry what it meant that 2 bonesmen to run against each other for president. He replied, "Not much, because it's a secret." 5. Bonesmen have a reputation for stealing from other Yale societies. They've stolen the skulls of Martin Van Buren, Pancho Villa and Geronimo. In 2009, Geronimo's descendants charged the Society with the theft of his remains. Prescott Bush, George H.W. Bush's father, supposedly broke into his grave during World War I and stole his skull and 2 bones. The court dismissed the case. 6. Of Yale's 41 secret societies, Bones is only the 5th richest, with $4,129,936 in assets in 2015, according to Business Insider. 7. Bonesman William F. Buckley led a group that sued to block the admission of women to Skull and Bones in 1991. Though black men were admitted since 1965, the Russell Trust adamantly opposed. When the class of '91 tapped 7 women for the '92 class, the Russell Trust changed the locks on the tomb. Members voted by mail, 368 to 320 to allow women. But then Buckley and his group got a temporary restraining order against the move. The lawsuit eventually fizzled out and the first women joined in 1992. The Order of the Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones, also known as the Order 322 or the Brotherhood of Death, is an undergraduate senior secret student society at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. The oldest senior class society at the university, Skull and Bones has become a cultural institution known for its powerful alumni and various conspiracy theories. It is one of the big 3 societies at Yale, the other 2 being Scroll and Key and Wolf's Head Society. The Society's alumni organization, the Russell Trust Association, owns the organization's real estate and oversees the membership. The Society is known informally as Bones, and members are known as Bonesmen, members of the Order or initiated to the Order. Skull and Bones selects new members among students every spring as part of Yale University's Tap Day, and has done so since 1879. Since the Society's inclusion of women in the early 1990s, Skull and Bones selects 15 men and women of the junior class to join the Society. Skull and Bones taps those that it views as campus leaders and other notable figures for its membership. Bonesmen. Skull and Bones membership developed a reputation in association with the power elite. Regarding the qualifications for membership, Lanny Davis wrote in the 1968 Yale Yearbook, "If the Society had a good year, this is what the ideal group will consist of: a football captain, a chairman of the Yale Daily News, a conspicuous radical, a whiffenpoof, a swimming captain, a notorious drunk with a 94 average, a filmmaker, a political columnist, a religious group leader, a chairman of the lit, a foreigner, a ladies' man with 2 motorcycles, an ex-serviceman, a Negro, if there are enough to go around, a guy nobody else in the group had heard of, ever." Lanny Davis, quoted by Alexandra Robbins, George W. Knight of Eulogia. Like other Yale senior societies, Skull and Bones membership was almost exclusively limited to white Protestant males for much of its history. While Yale itself had exclusionary policies directed at particular ethnic and religious groups, the senior societies were even more exclusionary. While some Catholics were able to join such groups, Jews were more often not. Some of these excluded groups eventually entered Skull and Bones by means of sports, through the society's practice of tapping standout athletes. Star football players tapped for Skull and Bones included the first Jewish player, Al Hesburgh, class of 1938, and African-American player, Levi Jackson, class of 1950, who turned down the invitation for the Berzelius Society. Yale became coeducational in 1969, prompting some other secret societies such as St. Anthony Hall to transition to co-ed membership, yet Skull and Bones remained fully male until 1992. The Bones class of 1971's attempt to tap women for membership was opposed by Bones alumni, who dubbed them the Bad Club and quashed their attempt. The issue, as it came to be called by Bonesmen, was debated for decades. The class of 1991 tapped 7 female members for membership in the next year's class, causing conflict with the Alumni Association. The trust changed the locks on the tomb and the Bonesmen instead met in the Manuscript Society building. A mail-in vote by members decided 368 to 320 to permit women in the society, but a group of alumni led by William F. Buckley obtained a temporary restraining order to block the move, arguing that a formal change in bylaws was needed. Other alumni such as John Kerry and R. Inslee Clark Jr. spoke out in favor of admitting women. The dispute was highlighted on an editorial page of the New York Times. A second alumni vote, in October 1991, agreed to accept the class of 1992, and the lawsuit was dropped. Number 2. The Freemasons. The Grand Masonic Lodge was created in 1717 when 4 small groups of lodges joined together. Membership levels were initially first and second degree, but in the 1750s this was expanded to create the third degree, which caused a split in the group. When a person reaches the third degree, they are called a Master Mason. Masons conduct their regular meetings in a ritualized style. This includes many references to architectural symbols such as the compass and square. They refer to God as the great architect of the universe. The 3 degrees of Masonry are: 1. Entered apprentice, this makes you a basic member of the group. 2. Fellow craft, this is an intermediate degree in which you are meant to develop further knowledge of Masonry. 3. Master Mason, this degree is necessary for participating in most Masonic activities. Some rites, such as the Scottish Rite, list up to 33 degrees of membership. Masons use signs and handshakes to gain admission to their meetings, as well as to identify themselves to other people who may be Masons. The signs and handshakes often differ from one jurisdiction to another and are often changed or updated. This protects the group from people finding out how to gain admission under false pretenses. Masons also wear stylized clothing based upon the clothing worn by stonemasons from the Middle Ages. The most well-known of these is the apron. In order to become a Mason, you must generally be recommended by a current Mason. In some cases you must be recommended 3 times before you can join. You have to be at least 18 years old and of sound mind. Many religions frown upon membership of the Masons, and the Roman Catholic Church forbids Catholics to join under pain of excommunication. The Freemasons. Freemasonry or Masonry consists of fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local fraternities of stonemasons that from the end of the 14th century regulated the qualifications of stonemasons and their interaction with authorities and clients. Freemasonry has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories throughout the years. Modern Freemasonry broadly consists of 2 main recognition groups. Regular Freemasonry insists that a volume of scripture be open in a working lodge, that every member profess belief in a supreme being, that no women be admitted, although, in some jurisdictions, those who transition to women after being initiated may stay, see below, and that the discussion of religion and politics be banned. Continental Freemasonry is now the general term for the jurisdictions which have removed some, or all, of these restrictions. The basic, local organizational unit of Freemasonry is lodge. These private lodges are usually supervised at the regional level, usually coterminous with either a state, province, or national border, by a Grand Lodge or Grand Orient. There is no international, worldwide Grand Lodge that supervises all of Freemasonry. Each Grand Lodge is independent, and they do not necessarily recognize each other as being legitimate. The degrees of Freemasonry retain the 3 grades of medieval craft guilds, those of apprentice, journeyman or fellow, now called fellowcraft, and Master Mason. The candidate of these 3 degrees is progressively taught the meanings of the symbols of Freemasonry, and entrusted with grips, signs and words to signify to other members that he has been so initiated. The degrees are part allegorical morality play and part lecture. 3 degrees are offered by craft, or Blue Lodge, Freemasonry, and members of any of these degrees are known as Freemasons or Masons. There are additional degrees, which vary with locality and jurisdiction, and are usually administered by their own bodies, separate from those who administer the craft degrees. Ritual and symbolism. Freemasonry describes itself as a beautiful system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. The symbolism is mainly, but not exclusively, drawn from the tools of stonemasons, the square and compasses, the level and plumb rule, the trowel, the rough and smooth ashlars, among others. Moral lessons are attributed to each of these tools, although the assignment is by no means consistent. The meaning of the symbolism is taught and explored through ritual, and in lectures and articles by individual Masons who offer their personal insights and opinions. All Freemasons begin their journey in the craft by being progressively initiated, passed, and raised into the 3 degrees of craft, or Blue Lodge Masonry. During these 3 rituals, the candidate is progressively taught the Masonic symbols, and entrusted with grips or tokens, signs and words to signify to other Masons which degrees he has taken. The dramatic allegorical ceremonies include explanatory lectures, and revolve around the construction of the Temple of Solomon, and the artistry and death of the chief architect, Hiram Abiff. The degrees are those of Entered Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason. While many different versions of these rituals exist, with various lodge layouts and versions of the Hiramic legend, each version is recognizable to any Freemason from any jurisdiction. In some jurisdictions, the main themes of each degree are illustrated by tracing boards. These painted depictions of Masonic themes are exhibited in the lodge according to which degree is being worked, and are explained to the candidate to illustrate the legend and symbolism of each degree. The Freemasons. Ceremonies. The experience of becoming a member of a Masonic lodge is divided into 3 ceremonial stages that Masons call degrees. These 3 degrees are loosely based upon the journeyman system, which was used to educate medieval craftsmen. Symbolically, the degrees represent the 3 stages of human development: youth, manhood, and age. First degree, Entered Apprentice. This is a candidate's first experience with the ceremonies of the fraternity, and like all Masonic ceremonies, it is a solemn and meaningful event. Once a candidate completes the Entered Apprentice ceremony, he takes his first step as a Freemason and enjoys the title of brother. Second degree, Fellowcraft. The second ceremony exposes a brother to more of the symbolism and philosophy of the fraternity. For skilled craftsmen, this degree would have marked a person's progress from an apprentice to a journeyman. Third degree, Master Mason. The last of the lodge ceremonies, the Master Mason degree, makes a candidate a full member of the fraternity, enjoying both the rights and responsibilities of membership. The Master Mason has the right to visit lodges throughout the world. He will meet men who would otherwise have remained strangers. He can study the philosophy that underlies the Masonic ceremonies. He can aspire to positions of leadership. He can enjoy the benefits of fellowship. He can discover the joy of helping others. There is no higher degree in Freemasonry, though many will continue their formal training in the craft by joining appendant bodies such as the Scottish Rite, 32 degrees Freemasonry, the York Rite, and the Shrine, or Shriners, among others. During all 3 ceremonies, a candidate is treated with complete respect, and no time is he ever made to feel uncomfortable or harassed in any way. Masonic ceremonies are a wonderful tradition shared by men such as George Washington, Harry S. Truman, Dave Thomas, and other men of integrity. These ceremonies are always conferred in such a way as to bring pride to the candidate and the members of the lodge. Number 1. The Illuminati. A movement of freethinkers that were the most radical offshoot of the Enlightenment, whose followers were given the name Illuminati, but who called themselves Perfectibilists, was founded on May 1, 1776 in Ingolstadt, Upper Bavaria, by Jesuit taught Adam Weishaupt. This group is now known as the Bavarian Illuminati. While it was not legally allowed to operate, many influential intellectuals and progressive politicians counted themselves as members. Even though there were some known Freemasons in the membership, it was not considered to be endorsed by Masonry. The fact that the Illuminati did not require a belief in a supreme being made them particularly popular amongst atheists. This, and the fact that most members were humanists, is the reason for the widespread belief that the Illuminati wants to overthrow organized religion. Internal panic over the succession of a new leader, and government attempts to outlaw the group saw to it collapsing entirely in the late 1700s. Despite this, conspiracy theorists such as David Icke and Wes Panner have argued that the Bavarian Illuminati survived, possibly to this day, though very little reliable evidence can be found to support the idea that Weishaupt's group survived into the 19th century. It has even been suggested that the Skull and Bones Club is an American branch of the Illuminati. Many people believe that the Illuminati is still operating and managing the main actions of the governments of the world. It is believed that they wish to create a one-world government based on humanist and atheist principles. The Illuminati. The Illuminati, one, plural of Latin illuminatus, enlightened, is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment-era secret society founded on May 1, 1776 in Bavaria, today a part of Germany. The society's goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, religious influence over public life, and abuses of state power. The order of the day, they wrote in their general statutes, is to put an end to the machinations of the purveyors of injustice, to control them without dominating them. The Illuminati, along with Freemasonry and other secret societies, were outlawed through edict by Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria with the encouragement of the Catholic Church, in 1784, 1785, 1787, and 1790. In the following several years, the group was vilified by conservative and religious critics who claimed that they continued underground and were responsible for the French Revolution. Many influential intellectuals and progressive politicians counted themselves as members, including Ferdinand of Brunswick and the diplomat Franz Xaver von Zwock, who was the order's second in command. It attracted literary men such as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and Johann Gottfried Herder and the reigning Duke of Gotha and of Weimar. In subsequent use, Illuminati has referred to various organizations which have claimed or have been claimed to be connected to the original Bavarian Illuminati or similar secret societies, though these links have been unsubstantiated. These organizations have often been alleged to conspire to control world affairs by masterminding events and planting agents in government and corporations in order to gain political power and influence and to establish a new world order. Central to some of the more widely known and elaborate conspiracy theories, the Illuminati have been depicted as lurking in the shadows and pulling the strings and levers of power in dozens of novels, films, television shows, comics, video games, and music videos. The Illuminati. Definition of Illuminati. Merriam-Webster, plural noun 1. Capitalized, any of various groups claiming special religious enlightenment. 2. Persons who are or who claim to be unusually enlightened. 3. Elite sense. Dictionary.com, plural noun 1. Persons possessing or claiming to possess superior enlightenment. 2. Initial capital letter, a name given to different religious societies or sects because of their claim to superior enlightenment. The Free Dictionary, plural noun 1. People claiming to be unusually enlightened with regard to a subject. 2. Illuminati, any of various groups claiming special religious or philosophical enlightenment. 1. Philosophy, any of several groups of Illuminati, ESP in 18th century France. 2. Roman Catholic Church, a group of religious enthusiasts of 16th century Spain who were persecuted by the Inquisition. 3. Christian churches, other, a Masonic sect founded in Bavaria in 1778 claiming that the illuminating grace of Christ resided in it alone. 4. Christian churches, other, a rare name for the Rosicrucians. 1. Persons claiming to possess superior enlightenment. 2. Cap, any of various religious sects claiming special enlightenment. Cambridge Dictionary, noun plural formal people who claim to have a special understanding or knowledge of something. Dictionary.com, the Illuminati refers to several different groups. The name derives from the Latin illuminature, which means enlightened. Oxford Dictionary, noun plural people claiming to possess special enlightenment or knowledge of something. Some mysterious standard known only to the Illuminati of the organization. 1. A sect of 16th century Spanish heretics who claimed special religious enlightenment. 1. 2. A Bavarian secret society founded in 1776, organized like the Freemasons. Origin late 16th century, plural of Italian illuminato or Latin illuminatus, enlightened, past participle of illuminare. The Illuminati. Origins. The owl of Minerva perched on a book was an emblem used by the Bavarian Illuminati in their Minerval degree. Adam Weishaupt, 1748-1830, became professor of canon law and practical philosophy at the University of Ingolstadt in 1773. He was the only non-clerical professor at an institution run by Jesuits, whose order Pope Clement XIV had dissolved in 1773. The Jesuits of Ingolstadt, however, still retained the purse strings and some power at the university, which they continued to regard as their own. They made constant attempts to frustrate and discredit non-clerical staff, especially when course material contained anything they regarded as liberal or Protestant. Weishaupt became deeply anti-clerical, resolving to spread the ideals of the Enlightenment, Aufklärung, through some sort of secret society of like-minded individuals. Finding Freemasonry expensive and not open to his ideas, he founded his own society, which was to have a system of ranks or grades based on those in Freemasonry, but with his own agenda. His original name for the new order was Bund der Perfectibilisten, or Covenant of Perfectibility, Perfectibilists. He later changed it because it sounded too strange. On May 1, 1776, Weishaupt and 4 students formed the Perfectibilists, taking the Owl of Minerva as their symbol. The members were to use aliases within the society. Weishaupt became Spartacus. Law students Massenhausen, Bauhof, Merz and Suter became respectively Ajax, Agathon, Tiberius, and Erasmus Roterodamus. Weishaupt later expelled Suter for indolence. In April 1778, the order became the Illuminatenorden, or Order of Illuminati, after Weishaupt had seriously contemplated the name the order. Massenhausen proved initially the most active in expanding the society. Significantly, while studying in Munich shortly after the formation of the order, he recruited Xavier von Zwock, a former pupil of Weishaupt, at the beginning of a significant administrative career. At the time he was in charge of the Bavarian National Lottery. Massenhausen's enthusiasm soon became a liability in the eyes of Weishaupt, often resulting in attempts to recruit unsuitable candidates. Later, his erratic love life made him neglectful, and as Weishaupt passed control of the Munich group to Zwock, it became clear that Massenhausen had misappropriated subscriptions and intercepted correspondence between Weishaupt and Zwock. In 1778, Massenhausen graduated and took a post outside Bavaria, taking no further interest in the order. At this time, the order had a nominal membership of 12. With the departure of Massenhausen, Zwock immediately applied himself to recruiting more mature and important recruits. Most prized by Weishaupt was Hertel, a childhood friend and a canon of the Munich Frauenkirche. By the end of summer 1778, the order had 27 members, still counting Massenhausen, in 5 commands: Munich, Athens, Ingolstadt, Eleusis, Ravensburg, Sparta, Freisinger, Thebes and Eichstätt, or Zurum. During this early period, the order had 3 grades of novice, Minerval, and illuminated Minerval, of which only the Minerval grade involved a complicated ceremony. In this, the candidate was given secret signs and a password. A system of mutual espionage kept Weishaupt informed of the activities and character of all his members, his favorites becoming members of the ruling council, or Areopagus. Some novices were permitted to recruit, becoming insinuants. Christians of good character were actively sought, with Jews and pagans specifically excluded, along with women, monks, and members of other secret societies. Favored candidates were rich, docile, willing to learn, and aged 18 to 30. We have covered much on these top 10 elite secret societies. From definitions, foundations of the groups, roots of how they became known. We were able to listen to a ritual of one that through a simple search an ex-member has given away. The one thing that helps people is unveiling secrets, therefore removing fear. I hope you heard that most all these groups believe in the Almighty God, all but the Illuminati group required a pledge to the Creator of all. Please remember what Illuminati means and think about your relationship to the divine. What they may do in private, you already have going on within. We are all equal in love. Unconditionally. Let us take care of one another, and always show patience and compassion to each other. That is what makes us stand out. Have a beautiful day.